Hi, it's Michael, clinical psychologist at Grove Psychology. I wanted to talk to you today about a blog I wrote a little while ago, which was called "Why Going to Therapy is Hard But Worth It," which was more a bit of a what to expect when you go to therapy for the first time, what to get out of what's going to come up, why is it different to speaking to your friends, etc., etc. But in that blog, I wrote a subsection on some of the why it can be quite difficult, particularly emotionally. And I was triggered to think about this because I had a few clients last week who were quite upset during our sessions. Now, for me as a psychologist, I'm really used to that. I think it's very good when that happens. But obviously for these clients, they were very apologetic is probably the best word for it. They were quite embarrassed about the fact that they were crying. And a couple of big buffy blokes as well, you know, men don't cry kind of blokes. And I wanted to speak more about that because I think that's a really important issue about what to expect in therapy and why it's very difficult and why people tend to drop out. And it's at that moment when things are getting hard, that's when we tend to see the resistance to staying with therapy. And so the issue I have more is that why I say it's a good thing from my point of view is that when you're crying, that's when you are ready to do the work. Okay, we're starting to activate the emotion that's connected to why you've come in, what's causing you to be stuck, what's causing you to have anxiety or depression or whatever it might be that you've come to see a psychologist for. And that's usually the moment though when people want to drop out. It's hard work and there's really no escaping it, basically. You've got to do that personal journey. You've got to do the journey where it is that hard work, where it is really uncomfortable. And when you're in that state, when you are upset and emotionally come out, and I had someone say to me the other day, look, you know, after seeing you, I feel very drained, and even the next day I feel a bit drained, which makes a lot of sense because you've got in contact with that emotional state. Okay, it's that moment where you've got to keep going. Okay, that is really, really hard, but it's so important to stick with it because that's where all the healing happens. When you can stick with that emotional state, and your therapist, your psychologist that's working with you, who is skilled in helping you through that, knowing when to push, knowing to back off, knowing how to help you to manage those feelings, and that's where the healing comes from. So I really wanted to sort of touch on that because I saw that a couple of times last week. Again, people apologizing for crying, and what I tell them is, you know, please don't apologize. Don't apologize for crying. Don't apologize for telling me stuff that's really difficult, because this is the place you can talk about it with me or with other psychologists that you might be seeing if you're not coming to see me at Grove Psychology, or if you're seeing one of my colleagues. It's this bit. This is what we're there for, is to help people with the big emotions. As much as I'd like to talk to people about their day and have a laugh, and I have a few of those clients and it's really, really enjoyable, we've got to do the work, right? And the work's hard. And you've got to show up and you've got to be prepared to go through it in a way that is manageable. But there are times where we need to go through it. So that's where the healing takes part. It's tough, okay? And when you feel like dropping out, I think that's when you need to speak up and just say, like, this is really hard. I'm finding this really difficult. And that's okay to do that, okay? I hope you find this video helpful for you if you're going through that process, or if you've been with a psychologist before and you stopped going because that's the sticky point that you got to. Let me know in the comment section if you want to comment. I'll write another blog on this. I'm going to explore it in a lot more detail because it was only a little small subsection that I wrote about. Okay, take care. Bye.